Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. If like me you love playing slap bass lines, then you've definitely played a slap octave. You might even have played a slap octave where you pluck that octave twice. But in this lesson I'm going to look at a technique that uses 3 plucks. It's very similar to an alternate picking technique that you might use playing fingerstyle, where you alternate between the first and second plucking fingers. To help me demonstrate this, I'm going to start by playing an octave from D here at the 5th fret of the A string. So I'm playing the root note with my thumb, plucking the octave once with my first finger, again with my second finger, and then a third time with my first finger. So I'm alternating between my first and second fingers. Of course you can play that just with your first finger or your second finger, but both involve a little bit of movement, so they're a little bit more physical unless you've got a very relaxed technique. For me, when I use the alternate picking technique, it means that I can anchor my picking hand and the only thing that's moving is the finger that I'm using to pluck each string. Now you might want to grab a copy of the free PDF workbook before I get into this, because it's got all of the bass lines that I'm going to be playing notated in both standard notation and tab. There's also a full breakdown of all of the techniques that I'm going to be using, and I've included a copy of the backing track that I'm using in this lesson as part of that download too. You'll find the link to that in the description below. In the bass line I'm about to play, I'm going to use this technique to play a really cool riff. I'm also going to be playing a variation of the riff, and there's also some fills too. So not only are you going to get to learn this great technique, you're going to learn how to use it in a bass line at least 2 different ways, and on top of that there's at least 4 fills using a whole range of different slap bass techniques. So it really is going to be a bumper slap bass fest. And a little bit later in the lesson I'm going to be adding something to this that's going to elevate it to a completely different level, and that's going to be super funky and rhythmic. I played a ton of stuff there and I'm absolutely going to show you everything, but don't forget the bass line is in the PDF, so make sure you grab a copy of that. At the heart of the bass line was this riff, but the first time I added this to it. So I'm hammering on from C at the 5th fret of the G string to D at the 7th fret, and I'm continuing the alternate picking theme because I picked that with my second finger. First, second, first, second. The second time through I played a variation of that. This time I slid from F the flattened 3rd at the 10th fret of the G string into F sharp the major 3rd at the 11th fret, and that's a really bluesy sound. So the first time, hammer on, slide the second time, back to the hammer on the third time, and now the first fill. Again the riff, and then it's followed by, so we've got E hammering onto F. Then we've got a reverse muted octave, so I'm playing the octave at the 5th fret of the G string, the root note at the 3rd fret of the A string, then I'm playing that C at the 3rd fret, and then C sharp at the 4th fret. The second time through was almost identical. Hammer on, slide, hammer on, second fill. So it started with a slide from the 12th fret of the A string, and then we've got this reverse muted B octave, C octave and C sharp. Third time again, hammer on, slide, hammer on, third fill. Again, started with a slide from the 12th fret of the A string, then we've got a B octave, C octave and a C sharp octave, but those octaves are double plucked. So I'm plucking the octave with my first and second finger. I don't think you can play those with one finger. Well, I certainly can't, so you've got to double pluck them. I'm also keeping them short so they fit with the rhythm of the bass line. Nice and percussive. The last time. And the final fill. So we've got B hammering onto C. Then we've got a reverse muted octave. So I'm playing C at the 5th fret of the G string, C at the 3rd fret of the A string. Then we've got C hammering onto D, muted G string, muted A string. G hammering onto A, muted G string, muted E string this time. And then finally B hammering onto C, muted G string, muted A string, and then a final D. So I'm going to play that whole bass line for you now really slowly. First fill. Second fill. Third fill. Last fill. Earlier in the lesson I said I was going to add something to this bass line that would turbocharge it rhythmically, and this is what I meant. For me that sounds great, and it transforms what is already a really nice slap bass line into something that's just a little bit extra special. I played the whole line exactly the same there, with the exception of the riff. So instead of playing single picked octaves, every time I picked the octave I bounced back down to play a root note with my thumb. And I'm also using that alternate picking technique, but this time it might be easy for you actually just to use one finger, because that way, because it's such a percussive line, it might help you play much more consistently. I hope you enjoyed learning this great technique and everything that went with it. If you did, give me a shout out and let me know in the comments. Make sure you grab the PDF, the link to that's posted below. Thanks for joining me, look forward to seeing you again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.